Hey everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today is the 1st of June and so I thought I'd start a new reading vlog. So I'm currently reading one book in particular and that is called The Curse of Roses, which is inspired by medieval Portugal. It's a fantasy and it's also sapphic, so it fits right into Pride Month. So I will probably not do the readathon, Queer Lit readathon I think that's called. I just completely blanked on the name. But yeah, I will just read whatever this month because I feel like I already try to read a lot of books with LGBT characters and with also LGBT authors. So I guess, I can give myself a little bit of room there because there's a couple of books that I'm really intrigued to read, but as I said, A Curse of Roses would definitely fit right into the Pride Month theme, so I'll definitely keep you updated on that one. I think I have listened to, I don't know, maybe 2 hours or so yet, and I'm really enjoying it. It has a main character who's a princess and she has a curse, and that curse is that whenever she touches food it turns into roses, and that's obviously not a great curse, especially in medieval times where food is scarce anyway. And she really wants to help her people, so she tries to hide her curse and basically not turn food into anything else, which is quite hard for her because that means she basically starves herself. So this is not a great book if you have any kind of eating disorder, but apart from that, I'm really liking it so far. We just had the first like female romance moments, which I really appreciate. I think that the love interest will be my favorite character of the book so far. I absolutely adore her. She is perfection. She's basically this really old soul and she was trapped as an enchanted Mura. So yeah, so far I really enjoy that book. I haven't listened to it in a while now, but I will pick it up later today again, and then I'm pretty sure that I can tell you more. Also, one thing I wanted to mention, there is this lady's maid and then her guard, and those two remind me so much of Nina and Matthias in the Six of Crows books. So if you like that dynamic, maybe you want to pick this book up, because in the beginning they are just like bickering all the time and I really liked it. So yeah, I'm excited to see where this book goes, and I will keep you updated on that. I think one book that I will start soon is this one. This is one of those I talked about before. My best friend gave 3 of her friends a book for Christmas, and they're all booked in the same companion series, and so this is the last one I have to read. I've also already managed to read the first 2 that I was sent, and so we're just sending them in circles basically. But this is the last one I have. In German it's called Die Champagnerkönigin, and this is by a German author, Petra Durst-Benning. I am not a fan of these books because they're just not a genre that I enjoy, but I will definitely have to read this in June and then it will be over, which I'm very excited about. So I thought I'd better start this very soon. But there's also one problem, and that is that a lot of amazing books are coming out right today on the 1st of June. Books that I have been excited about for a very long time. And I live in Germany, and since the Brexit, it is basically impossible to get new releases fast. Like, I would not be able to get any of these before like the last couple of weeks of June, if I was lucky. So I've actually been contemplating reviving my e-reader. I have not really used the e-reader for like real books ever. My ex-boyfriend used it for a very long time, but I have never really used it. So I'm thinking about getting The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nivo, sorry. And maybe start that But if I do, I'll probably do a separate reading vlog for it. So I will probably not talk about it here. But right now, I think I will do it. I think I will just try it out. And depending on whether it works or not, I will use this for a separate reading vlog and just do very short updates here. Or if it doesn't work out so well, I will include it in this reading vlog. We'll see. But yeah, these are my reading plans for now. I do have a ton of books that I want to read. And as always, I'm, sometimes a bit overwhelmed, and then I'm like, I should just buy a new book instead of choosing between all of the books that I already have. So that's kind of what's happening right now. Also, today I got a call that I can get my COVID vaccine on Friday, which I was so happy, and I did not expect it at all. I thought that I would not get one before like the end of June. Oh my god, I'm so excited. So I hope this will be a really fun week of reading. I'll definitely have the whole weekend to just, relax and get over the vaccine. So we'll see. I'm very excited. And for now, I will keep you updated. So I managed to read the first 100 pages in The Champagne Queen, the German book that I have to read because, yeah, it was a gift and I hate it. This book reads like a punishment, to be honest. The writing is so bad. I feel like it has gotten a little bit better now, but the beginning is so bad. Like, there is this one phrase, I don't know what it is in English, but it's basically saying like, her dreams burst like a bubble, something like that. And it's not like the most popular saying. It's not like this is something that Germans say all the time. And the author managed to have that phrase twice on one page. And I'm like, no, you need an editor. Like, there's other words like dreams go up in smoke or whatever. Like, you don't have to use that weird phrase twice on a page. And then also there's these like little things, but there's so many that it's horrible. Like, for example, there is a situation where there's a couple and a new person approaches the couple, and then it says that he greets her first and then him. And then it is basically what he says. And he says, oh yeah, Mr. Blah Blah and Mrs. And I'm like, no, he greeted her first. He can't say his name first. It doesn't work. Like, he didn't go up to her and be like, oh yeah, Mr. Blah Blah, and Mrs. to the husband. Like, what? And yeah, it's just like the writing is just really not good. It really feels like it's not edited. And also, I knew that the main character of this would be my least favorite because she's annoying in all the other books as well. And I mean, I'm glad in a way because this is set in France. So we don't have a lot of friendship scenes because that was like really bad in the first book because these three main characters, they don't have a real friendship. If these were my friends, I don't know, I would leave. I would go look for new friends because that's not what friendship is like. And yeah, I don't know, this is gonna be rough. This is gonna be really rough. I'm contemplating what to do with it because I have 400 and some pages to go. And seriously, it just feels like wasting my time. Whatever. Apart from that, I have also almost listened to 50% of The Curse of Roses, and I am really enjoying that book. I have cat fluff all over my face. I'm sorry. I just had a little cuddle session with the cat, and I have fluff everywhere. But The Curse of Roses is really, really good. I think I said before that the lady's maid and the guard reminded me of the Nina and Matthias dynamic in Six of Crows. And now, right before the 50% mark, shit goes down. Wow. And I was like, oh my god, like, how did I see it coming? But yeah, I don't want to spoil anything. But basically, one thing that really reminds me of like Nina and Matthias is the whole thing that Matthias thinks that Nina is a witch and that that's a bad thing and it's against God. And that's basically what happens in The Curse of Roses with these two characters as well. And yeah, still, yeah, shit went down, and I'm really intrigued to keep listening to it while I do the dishes in a second. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that audiobook. I also really like the love interest. I said that before. I love Fatyan. I'm not quite sure how I feel about the nicknames. That's just one thing that I'm a little bit like meh about. But yeah, I feel like we're at a very interesting point in the story right now, and it could go into so many directions. And I'm intrigued to see where it actually goes. So I'll keep you updated. So I'm about to go and get my first shot of the COVID vaccine. Very, very excited. I've packed my books, and I will also bring some books that I have in my office because yeah, I went to the library yesterday, so I kept them in my office and I will pick them up on the way now. I'm really nervous, not because of the vaccine, but just because of the whole, like, bureaucratic nightmare. We'll see. I did it! I guess here's proof. Oh, I'm so excited. You want to see what the cat's doing? The cat is so weird right now. That's my cat. And this is her box. She likes big boxes. And dinner. Okay, so here's my little library haul. I have Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Then we have Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett. And Persepolis. So far I have only read the first part of this, and this one has the second one as well. So I really want to read the rest of the story as well. But I think the one I'm most excited about right now is actually Miracle Creek. This sounds so weird. So let me read you, it's in here. I'm sorry. So, in a small town in Virginia, a group of strangers comes together at a special treatment center, where they enter the Miracle Submarine, an experimental chamber that may cure a range of conditions from infertility to autism. Then the chamber explodes and 2 people die. Who is responsible? Was it the exhausted mother of a patient, the owners hoping to cash in on a big insurance payment and send their daughter to college? Could it have been a protester trying to prove that the treatment isn't safe? An ensuing murder trial uncovers unimaginable secrets and lies. So this setup is so interesting, and then also, what also really intrigued me is it comes with a list, with a cast of characters, and I think most of it is kind of like a courtroom drama, but with this weird treatment thing at the core. So I think that sounds so fascinating. And I wish this would have been there when I was there last, because it would have been a cool book for the Asian Readathon as well, I think. But yeah, I hope I get to this this month. It sounds really cool. Okay, so tonight we celebrate. I have some wraps with salad and cheese. I have a new Riley video, which is one of my absolute favorite booktube channels. And I have a lemonade by the brand Lemonade, and this is the maracuja one, and yeah, I just love it. So let's celebrate the first step into freedom, my doctor said, and I think she's right. Feels good. Cheers. So today's the day after my vaccination. I'm feeling completely fine, which I am very happy about. Only my arm hurts, and it actually hurts quite a bit. What's wrong, cat? But apart from that, I'm totally fine. I got the BioNTech Pfizer vaccination, if you're curious. And I listened to a little bit more of my audiobook, A Curse of Roses. I am really enjoying that book. It is very intriguing because I feel like it always surprises me. The plot of this book is not something very tropey, I feel like. And because of that, I can never see where it's going, and I'm surprised a lot. Last night I finished the first part of the book and started the second one. And the end of the first part was really hard to read. It actually made me cry. There was a ton of internalized homophobia in that part, right at the end of that part, and also some kind of religious-based self-harm. And yeah, I definitely did not see that coming. Like, I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, what's happening? And yeah, the second part now is very intriguing because we're at a point that I did not see coming. So I have no idea where this book might go from here. Yeah, I just really enjoy that book. I think it's very, very entertaining. And I do love the themes. Obviously, it is hard to read some of these things, but I think the overall discussion is very, very interesting. And one part of that, I have a problem holding my camera because I can't use the other hand to switch it up in between. One part of that is actually the king. Now, the main character, Isabel, is betrothed to the king, so she's supposed to be the future queen. And obviously, she doesn't have feelings for the king. And it's very interesting to see their dynamic because while this king, I think his name is Danish, that's how they say it in the audiobook, while he's not perfect, and he's a king, he's used to getting what he wants, and still he gives her a lot of freedom and a lot of choice and agency. And for example, he's like, he will, or he trusts her to tell him when she's ready to get married, and he waits for her basically and stuff like that. So he's not a bad person, but he is still a king, and he does some horrible things in the story. So I think their dynamic is very interesting, especially because Isabel really wants to love him, but she can't. And yeah, very, very interesting. I also do like the religious discussions. As I said, this is very much influenced by Catholic Church during the Middle Ages. And I'm not religious, so for me, it's always very interesting to read about religious characters and the way that they struggle with their faith, because I just never had that. So yeah, I do really, really like the themes of this book, and I do like the way that I just can't predict the story at all. And I'm having a good time, so I would highly recommend you pick it up if you're even slightly interested in this. As the story goes, these two cousins know the general street somewhere around here. Others explain that they got rolled over the police and police walls. They were every year, and the place where the general grew actually became things. These opened out, taking familiar small houses painted with lines reflecting the with blue and yellow lines, string bases, doors, and windows to keep the flies and seals away. The cobblestone paved roads and sidewalks and traditional Portuguese style, with white flagstones. The village between young children tended their own small gardens. Some of the touch. is the 7th of June, and last night I have read another 100 pages in my German book, The Champagne Queen, or whatever it's called. This is still not good. The writing is still really, really bad. Just feels unedited. Like yesterday, there was a sentence that was like, "We're just unimportant people without any importance." And I'm like, okay, that's a way to express that. The plot is getting better, and also the character is less annoying now, which I can appreciate. And then I know a couple of things that will definitely happen in this book because I have read the third one first, so I basically know where this story goes. And it's just annoying because I keep waiting for it. I don't want to spoil it for you just in case, but I know that there's gonna be like one pretty traumatic thing. And so last night I thought it was finally happening because I'm basically reading it just waiting for it to happen, because you're like, I don't care, why bother if I know that this happens? And so last night I was like, oh, finally it's happening, so I don't have to wait for it anymore. And then it didn't. And it was so confusing. So yeah, I don't know. I will finish this book for my best friend's sake, so I can complain to her, and then I'm done with this author and these books. Yeah. But then last night actually noon, it was Sunday yesterday, I finished my first book of the month, which was The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nivo. And this was a book that I read for a separate reading vlog, so I didn't talk about it here a lot. But I wanted to mention that I finished it and I gave it 5 stars. It was so, so good. For any Gatsby fan who is really into the Baz Luhrmann movie, I think this book is really good. I think that you will like it, and yeah, just have some like nostalgic feelings towards it, but at the same time it also tells its own story, and the perspective of Jordan was so good. She's my favorite character. So yeah, I really enjoyed that book. It was so phenomenal. And so for that new vlog, or the other vlog, I also started a new book, which is The Other Black Girl, I'm sorry. But I've only read like the prologue. I'm very intrigued. But as I said, I'm reading that for a separate vlog. That is probably up when this goes up, so I will link it at the end. But yeah, that's my physical reading. And then with my audiobook, I only have 1 hour left now. And I'm very, very excited because I have been really enjoying this story. I think that the topics are quite hard, reading about religion and being a lesbian, and just reading about women in the Middle Ages is just hard. But I still have a lot of fun. I do really, really like the characters, and I do feel for them, and I think that they are portrayed in their complexity. What I think is interesting with that book is that it takes a very, very long time before you actually know who the villain of the story is. You can kind of guess it earlier on, but it takes quite a while to be obvious. So I'm intrigued to see how this book will handle that all in the 1 hour that is remaining now. Because, yeah, I'm a little bit afraid that the ending will be too rushed, but we'll see. I'm just glad to finish it, and I think in my next update I will tell you what I thought of it. So yeah, we'll see. I'm also a little bit, confused what I should do as my next audiobook, because I really wanted to read Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and now I have read or seen the first negative review from a person that I like, so I'm like, I don't know. So far I've only read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I have not read Daisy Jones and the Six or any of the previous book of the author. But Malibu Rising is one that intrigues me, so I think I will probably read that next. But then I also want to read that for a separate reading vlog. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but we'll see. So far, yeah, I have been reading two good books, A Curse of Roses and The Chosen and the Beautiful, and one mad book, The German Champagne Queen. So I think it's a pretty good balance, and I think that the next books I will pick up will be good as well. So see you soon. So, good morning everyone. Today is the 8th of June and I have finished A Curse of Roses by Diana Pinguica yesterday night, and this was a really fun audiobook. I very much enjoyed it. I would highly recommend listening to it because all of the Portuguese words are pronounced, which is always very helpful for me. I really enjoy having a different language in my audiobooks, so I really like that. And I decided to give it 4.5 stars. Now the thing is that this book is very hard to rate for me for some reason, because I did really like it, and I think objectively it is a very good book. But at the same time, there was just a tiny spark missing that I like when I read books. So I think a 4.5 is a good, rating for it. I think what this book does really well is tell a very unique story. I think for these kind of fantasies that are more on a younger audience spectrum, I would say, this is not a typical YA story because it does have some sexual content, but I think it still reads like a YA. And with these fantasies, oftentimes they're very tropey, so you can see where the story is going. And I felt like with this one, it wasn't the case. I really felt like I never knew what was gonna happen next, because the setting and the kind of flow of the plot were very unique, and I really enjoyed that. I also really liked all of the characters, but I think that is where a little bit of my beef lies. Now, some people on Goodreads have complained that they didn't really believe the kind of love story in this. I did not have that issue. I think that sometimes, things like that just happen. You meet someone and you know that you will fall in love with that person. That's at least how it works for me. But what I had an issue with is the relationship of Isabel and Danish. They're meant to marry, but they're both basically in love with someone else, and they kind of know, kind of don't. It's, I don't want to spoil anything, but what I thought at the end was that it was all a little bit rushed. I was really skeptical when I had only like an hour left and so much of the story was still unresolved. And so, yeah, it definitely felt rushed. And I just feel like Danish is supposed to be this kind of like kind-hearted king. He's very progressive and he doesn't really believe in the whole like religious aspect. He wants to rule his country in a political fashion, and he doesn't want too much religion in there. So he's quite progressive because this is set in medieval times. And still, I felt like his character sometimes did not make sense to me. So he goes from being like super stubborn, which both Isabel and Danish are super stubborn, and he goes from that to like forgiving Isabel again and again and again, and it was just so inconsistent, the times when he was being like stubborn and really punishing her in a very hard way, and then the times when he would just forgive her. It was just it just felt like the author wasn't quite sure how to portray this character who's supposed to be kind of an ally in medieval times, but still he's also a king and he has to watch out for his reputation and his country. So yeah, I think that was something that I struggled with a bit, the rushed ending and the character of Danish. Apart from that, as I said, I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a very, very unique story that isn't like super fast-paced, except for the ending. So if you're intrigued by this, if you're okay with like the content warnings of eating disorders and kind of self-harm for religious reasons and some homophobic language, I think you could enjoy this. I have read one review on Goodreads that said this was like anti-feminist, and I don't really see it. So if you have read this book and you felt that this was anti-feminist, I would love to hear the reasoning, because the review didn't really say anything else, like it didn't explain how. So yeah, I'm a little bit confused there, because for me, you know, reading about these witches and like convents full of kind of women who had to hide from a society that didn't support them, and yeah, all of these themes, like women coming together, helping each other, having each other's backs, that just feels like so feminist to me. So yeah, I was a little bit confused there. And obviously Isabel as the main character holds a couple of like weird views, because she's very much educated in a Catholic way, and so this book is mostly about her overcoming these views and accepting herself as a lesbian and as a witch. So yeah, I don't know. I liked it. 4.5 stars. That's my take. And so I decided that next I will start Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I will read that for a different reading vlog that will probably still take a while to be done. So I will give like probably just one short update when I'm finished with that, and yeah, we'll see. But yeah, now I really have to head to work. I'm super late today. Don't tell anyone. I am super sweaty as well, because I just did my yoga and now I have to get on my bike, and it's just such a weird weather. It's so hot, but also humid, and I'm just sweating all the time. So I'm starting to get a headache, so I want to keep this update nice and short, but yesterday I read another 100 pages in the Champagne Queen, or whatever this book is called, and it wasn't great. I think I told you before that there's this one thing that I knew would happen in this book, because I've already read the sequel for some reason, and now that thing has finally happened, which is good, because I just hate waiting for things that I know are gonna happen. But what happened after just wasn't great, and it's dealing with mental health in a very harmful way. So I will go into spoilers now a little bit and explain it, but if you don't want to be spoiled for this book for some reason, just skip ahead over the spoiler, and just know that this book doesn't deal well with depression. Now, the thing that I knew would happen is that the husband of the main character dies, and I was kind of waiting for it, because, you know, if you know that it's gonna happen, you're like, okay, let's just get it over with. It's not that I hated the character, I wasn't a fan either, I just wanted to kind of move on with the story, I guess. And so that happened, and after that, the main character, Isabel, she goes kind of into a depressive phase. She doesn't get up anymore, she doesn't really care about anything anymore, and she's also pregnant while this happens. And so the neighbor gets really, really worried, and so she writes to Isabel's best friends, who the first and the third book are about in the series, and tells them to come there and to help Isabel, and they do that. They come to France and they try to take care of her. But it's really not portrayed in a good way. Like, at first I was scared that they will just portray it as, oh, now the friends are here and now it's just magically go away. And fortunately they did not do that. But there's this one scene after a couple of days where the friends were there to help her, where one of the friends just basically loses it. and she tells Isabel to just go kill herself if she doesn't want to get better. She literally tells her to go drown in the river. Like, literally, that's what she says. And after that, she tells her that Isabel is not allowed to be depressed because she, Clara, is having the much worse life. So basically, Isabel should just get over it. It's not so hard losing your husband, you know. And yeah, it was just horrible. I went to bed with such a stone in my gut. I felt so bad after reading this, especially since I have had at least one really bad, or like for me personally, really bad depressive episode. So yeah, reading that was so horrible. I felt so horrible after that. And yeah, it's just harmful. It's just harmful. It's exactly what you're not supposed to do. And even though the other friend who's with them at the time is like, oh, what's going on with you? It's like, that's all she says. Like, they're not clarifying anything. They just let that stand, and then in the next scene they have made up this big plan, and then everything is going better again. So yeah, horrible. Just horrible. I will continue reading the last 200 pages in a while. I read this like one day at a time basically, and just, you know, read nicer books in between. But I'll keep you updated on that one. So it is time for an update. I have about 100 pages left of the Champagne Queen. Last night I read 100 more pages of this. I still am not a fan of this book. The thing that stood out the most to me, like two things in the last part of this book that I've read yesterday. One thing is the depiction of the kind of seasonal workers that get to the fields to help with the harvest. These are mainly, I think, from Spain or like southern Europe, and the depiction of these people really was not great. It's the same thing I already disliked about the other book by this author, where it featured some Italian families that were very stereotypical, and again with these workers it was so stereotypical. Yeah, it did not sit well with me the way she described these people and what they did. Yeah, no, I did not like that. Let's keep it at that. And then the other thing is that for the majority of this book, the main character is pregnant, and she's obviously, you know, doing champagne-y stuff all the time. And she is drinking all the time while she's pregnant. And I know that, you know, you could say like, yeah, that was different times before, you know, it was like common knowledge that you're not supposed to drink alcohol while you're pregnant, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like, you know, this is stuff where I think it doesn't really hurt not to be historically accurate. Portraying pregnant women who drink tons of alcohol and then have healthy babies, it's just not my kind of thing. Like, I mean, honestly, while she was pregnant, she was heavily depressed, she didn't eat, and then afterwards, she drank alcohol all the time. Like, I don't like it. I don't like it, so. But yeah, that's the two things that I did not like. What do I like? I do like the kind of love interest we have now. I think he's a very nice guy, a good person, and I really like the way he speaks to her. What I dislike majorly dislike, is the way he keeps kissing her without consent. And then it's like, oh, I didn't even plan to do that, just kind of happened, sorry. Nah. So yeah. We'll see. Maybe I finish this on Sunday. Maybe I'll finish it next week. But I can't wait for this book to be over. So apart from that, I also did finish The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris. This is a book that I've read for a separate reading vlog, but I wanted to mention it quickly. Loved the book. I think it was very good. Really liked the ending. And I gave it 4 stars. So yeah, then I started reading Ace of Spades, and I am about halfway, not quite halfway through with that. And I'll tell you when I finished it, but I'm also reading this one for that separate reading vlog. So yeah, apart from, you know, the champagne stuff, my reading is going excellently this month. Not that you could really tell from this vlog so far. So it's time for an update. Today is the 22nd of June, and I have finished 3 books since we last spoke, I believe. I have finished Ace of Spades last night, and this book was phenomenal. As I've mentioned before, I read this for a different reading vlog, which will already be up when you see this one, I believe. So I'll link it at the end, but it was a 5-star read for me. I loved it. It was so good. And then this morning I finished my audiobook, which was Malibu Rising, and that one I also enjoyed. I think it's a very interesting exploration of family, and so I gave it 4 stars. And I also read that for a different reading vlog, but that one will probably take a while before I'm done with it. And then just now I have finally finished The Champagne Queen, or whatever it's called in English, by Petra Durst-Benning. And I decided to give this one 2.5 stars, which is a little bit lower than the other 2 books in this series. This is the second one, and it follows Isabel. And Isabel is a girl who grew up quite rich. Her father has a very important and well-doing factory, but this family has only been rich. They haven't really had the social standing to go with this. This is set right before the 1900s, so yeah, the late 1800s basically. And in the beginning of the novel, she has just left her family to marry a guy that her parents don't approve of, and they went to a different part of Germany. She's originally from Berlin, to live there with the family of her husband. And this focuses a lot on champagne, as you can guess. So at some point in the book, they move to France and inherit a, yeah, what do you even call that? Like an estate for, you know, making champagne. And yeah, this one was definitely not my least favorite. I disliked the 3rd book even more, but I think that was just personal preference. Whereas in this book, I definitely had a lot of things that I just didn't like. One of the main things I really did not enjoy is that the love interest, who is a nice enough guy, he keeps kissing the main character without asking permission, and even though they are not in any kind of romantic relationship for all of the book. So that was something that just was so weird. I think it happens like 3 or 4 times in the book, and I just really did not enjoy that. The other thing is that the main character eventually has a child, and this child is later in the book diagnosed with Down syndrome. I don't consider this a spoiler because I don't think, you know, the health of a child is a spoiler. So I really did not like the way that the main character dealt with this whole thing. In the end, she did come around, I guess, but it just all felt like a very ableist discussion. And I think the author tries to make a point there with the reaction of the love interest, but still, it just didn't sit right with me the way this was discussed. And yeah, so these were the 2 main things. There's a couple of other things. For example, I mentioned before that the main character drinks a lot of champagne while she's pregnant, and also she's in a depressive phase while she's pregnant, and she doesn't eat. And you know, combining this with the fact that the child actually has a sickness in the end, even though the book mentions that Down syndrome is something hereditary. I still felt like it left a really, really bad taste in my mouth to combine these things in this way. So yeah, now my cat is going crazy in the background. But yeah, overall, I'm not a fan of books like that, and I'm pretty glad that this is over now. So yeah, 2.5 stars from me for this. If you really want to learn a little bit about champagne and you like these like super dramatic women-focused historical fictions, then this might be a book for you, but it's absolutely not a book for me. So now I thought it would be fun if we go over to my birthday stack. So the books that mostly I got for my birthday. I have one other book there as well. And we will choose my next book. So here's my stack, and the books, or the book that I want to read next is The House in the Cerulean Sea. So there we have it. I thought this would be a good book to probably finish off the reading month. I don't think that I will finish more than this book in the rest of the month, but we'll see. But this has a male-male romance, so this is a perfect pick for Pride Month. And I've been meaning to read this book for a year now because, you know, all the hype, and it sounds so fantastic. People keep comparing it to Tim Burton movies, and it is supposed to, you know, just make you feel good. So I think that's just something that I want in my life. So I'm very excited to finally read this book. And then I have also already chosen my new audiobook, but I haven't started it yet. I want to listen to A Chorus Rises by Bethany C. Morrow. And this is the sequel to A Song Below Water. That's the one. It follows a different character. It follows Naima, who is kind of the mean girl in the first book. And I think this book will deal more with like the model minority kind of racism. So I'm very intrigued to read about that or listen to that. And yeah, I'll probably start it later tonight when I do the dishes. And yeah, that's all for now. Very excited. I'm just so glad I got that like weird book out of the way so I can finally read books that make me really happy again.
And now we can get into the Oxford World Classic edition that I have. So I have Cerulean and the Odyssey. I really like these classics and brought here anything like that. It's because I have like pretty editions. So like the pink English library collections are super pretty, but these classics that I have are ones that I've actually in the particular. So this one is actually the Oxford classic, and I got.
Are you happy, Malibu?
I started watching the movie and I was like, oh, this is good. And
Are you my favorite
and I
girl?
realized that it's a cheap story, and I just don't. I just not need cheap.
So I am in long sleeves again because it has gotten so cold here. I don't know. Last week we had around like over 30 degrees Celsius, and now we're back to 15. So yeah, so I don't freeze on my bike. I'm wearing long sleeves again. It feels very weird. Last night I started my audiobook for A Chorus Rises, and I am enjoying it. I have listened to a little bit more than the first hour of it, and we're following Naima, who is the kind of mean girl in the first book. She definitely is in an antagonistic relationship with the two main characters of the first book. And I think it's such an interesting choice to now focus on her. I really like that Naima is very unapologetic. She definitely doesn't see where she might have gone wrong in the things that happen at the end of the first book, and she is kind of annoyed and also hurt that a lot of people turn away from her. And what I do like about her character is that she really values loyalty. sometimes with these kind of like Mean Girls characters, they just want loyalty, but they don't give any back. So I'll be interested to see how that works with her character. And yeah, I just think it's interesting to now see the world through her perspective, because she has now suffered a lot too, and the things that Tavia did at the end of the first book weren't super great. But you know, since you see her perspectives in the first book, you totally understand what's happening. But seeing it from Naima's perspective, it makes sense that she isn't happy with what happened. And yeah, I'm very, very intrigued to see how that progresses. I must say, one thing that really struck me right now is that there's reference to a professor who is studying these magical communities. And it just felt so weird. And I guess I've never really thought about it, because as a sociologist, for me, it's quite normal that we do studies on, you know, people that have migrated to countries or different ethnic groups to look at inequalities and stuff like that. But I feel like the way that this person wants to study these communities, it feels different. It feels more like, you know, looking at them through like a looking glass. It's just really icky. So yeah, I'm interested to see how that progresses. We get like newspaper articles and some things along those lines within each chapter. So yeah, so far I really like it, and I'm intrigued to see where it goes. I have not started The House in the Cerulean Sea, or whatever it's called, because the cat lay on it last night, all night. So I will start that today. So I have some reading updates. Last night I finally started The House in the Cerulean Sea, and I've been so excited to read this book. I wanted to read it for about a year now, I guess. I'm not quite sure when it came out, but there was a lot of hype last year. And yeah, so I have read the first like 70 pages of this, and I am loving it already. The grumpy cat lady, like, or lady cat, the grumpy cat, you know, she's great. I love her. What's her name? In German I would say Calliope. I don't know how you would say that in English, but she's so cool. So Linus has just arrived at the island now, and I'm very, very intrigued to meet the kids. I will keep reading this book later today, but for now my highlight definitely was that he took his cat, because I was so worried he would leave her and, you know, she would just be in the beginning of the book, but no, we get more grumpy cat. So that's amazing. I love it. And then with my audiobook, A Chorus Rises, I always want to say Rising because I just read Malibu Rising. It's very confusing. But yeah, with A Chorus Rises, I love this book. I thought I would maybe get a little bit annoyed with the main character, and I can totally see that people might not like her, but I love her. She's so funny. She's so sassy and cynical. I love it. I can really feel for her, even though we are quite different, I guess. But yeah, I just really feel for her. I want her to be okay. I want to give her a hug. Yeah, Naima is great. And I just listened to the part where she's on the plane because she's leaving Portland to kind of figure out everything. And so this is her first time on a plane, and she comments on how people are just so weird in planes, like when the takeoff hasn't started yet and everyone's still trying to put their luggage somewhere, sitting down, remembering that you still need something, getting up again. And the way this was described was just so on point. I was laughing out loud. It was so funny. So yeah, I think the way this is going right now, I might enjoy A Chorus Rises more than A Song Below Water, which would be cool because I really like The Song Below Water, but I think that Naima is so much more my type of character that I like to read about. So yeah, she's very unapologetic. I love that. So yeah, that's my reading. I'm so happy with the books I'm reading right now, as you can probably tell, and I'll keep you updated. I'm now about 135 pages into The House in the Cerulean Sea. I thought I would read a little bit more yesterday, but then I started getting a bit of a headache, so, you know, I just wasn't in it. But I wanted to give you a quick first impression of the children. We've met all the children now, and I think my favorite is actually Theodore. He's so cute. I really like the descriptions of him, and I really hope that we get to see much more of his character and the way he thinks and perceives the world, because I think that's so interesting. Then we have Talia. I think Talia is actually the first child of this home that we meet. I think she's fun as well. I'm really intrigued to see her development. She's very morbid, which I just wrote a little Goodreads update, and I said that I enjoyed meeting the children, but instead of you know, spelling meeting with EE, I spelled it with EA. So like meat, and I fully blame that on Talia. She has infected me with her morbid thoughts. So yeah, I think she's quite fun. Then we have Cell. I think Cell's probably one of the more like thoughtful children. I really like that story that he tells in this first little class sequence, and I'm intrigued to see more of that. I think that, what's his name? The blob one. Chauncey. Okay, that's just a weird name to me. He's a weird character as well, so I guess it fits. I don't know how I feel about him. Like, whenever I try to make a mental picture of Chauncey, I'm like, I don't want to meet him. Like, I don't like, you know, like sluggish things, so anything that's just like glibbery, and yeah, no, Chauncey is not my kind of character. Then we have Fee. I have a feeling that she might not be like the most important character in this, but I really like the description of her room. That was very interesting. Did I forget anyone else? We have Lucy, obviously. I think that Lucy will be like the most important character for the children, but I'm not quite sure. It just seems fitting. So far, I don't really know how I feel about him. I think he lays it on quite thick, and that is intentional. But yeah, I don't know. So far, we haven't really clicked yet, I guess. So I'm intrigued to see what happens in the rest of the book. And I have to think whether I forgot anyone, but I don't think so. So that's my first impression of the children. If you have read this book, please let me know in the comments which one was your favorite child character in this. And yeah, I'm so intrigued to read more, and I think I will finish this book this month, so I'm pretty sure about that. But I'll probably not finish my audiobook, A Chorus Rises, because my partner was on vacation and he's coming back today, so I guess we'll spend some time together. And so yeah, I'll probably finish my audiobook next month in the beginning of July. But I'm also enjoying that. The family gathering has just started, and it's quite overwhelming, you know, having such a big family come together. But we'll see. Yeah, so that's all I have for now, and I'll keep you updated. So I am pretty much 50% through The House in the Cerulean Sea. I'm loving this book. I'm having so much fun reading it. I'm loving the characters. I really like the kind of, you know, quaint atmosphere. It's just all very nice in the best way possible. And yeah, I'm just enjoying my time with this. So I'm trying to read this a little bit more slowly. And I also got my partner to pick up the audiobook so we can gush about this book together, which is pretty nice. I think Theodore is still my favorite of the kids, and I don't think that will change. So yeah, that's that. I'm also pretty much 50% through my audiobook, A Chorus Rises, and I'm also enjoying that one a whole lot. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about it, but I really, really like it. I love the main character. I do think that the whole idea with the, you know, generational connection is very interesting, and I'm intrigued to see where that goes. And yeah, I just think that the perspective is very interesting and brings a lot of interesting discussion points into this story. So yeah, I don't know whether I will finish these two books this month, but even if I don't, I will let you know in the beginning of next month what I thought. I don't think I will finish my audiobook, I'm pretty sure about that, but I might finish this one. I still have 3 more days left, so we'll see about that. Okay, so I know the lighting and my hair are miserable right now, but I'm reading, and I try to keep it spoiler free, but we're in the cellar, and we just learned who one of the characters is, and I did see it coming. I think it is hinted towards, but it still hit me so hard. So I'm just gonna keep filming a little bit, see what else comes up, I guess. So yeah, you have some live reaction. The cat is leaving. She doesn't like me crying. So today is the 1st of July, so this is the last update for the vlog. I did not finish The House in the Cerulean Sea last night. I still have a couple of pages left. I'm on page 310, so not quite 100 pages left, and I'll probably finish that off tonight. So if you want to hear my thoughts, they will be in my July vlog. I'm sorry. But yeah, everything I've read so far I have loved, so I'm pretty sure this will be a 5-star. And then I am 65% through A Chorus Rises by Bethany C. Morrow. And this I also really enjoy. I think it will probably end up be a 4-star, maybe a 4.5 if the ending is like extra good. So yeah, I am definitely enjoying it just as much as the first book in this series, which was A Song Below Water. And I'm not quite sure whether I like it even a little bit more or just the same amount, because it's been a year since I listened to the first book. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's a good time and I think a great summer read. So I would highly encourage you to pick it up if it sounds interesting at all. And now we will go over to the wrap-up part of this video. So it is time for the wrap-up part of this video, and I probably should get my ring light, but but I just can't be bothered, so you'll have to live with the lighting situation. So the first book I finished in June was The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nevo. I decided to give this book 5 stars. I was a little bit hesitant with it. I was like between a 4.5 and a 5 star. I think what really made this book work for me so much is that I am obsessed with the Great Gatsby movie. I love the movie, I love the story, I love the soundtrack, and I felt like this book managed to capture what I love about the movie and put it into a book. Especially the beginning of the book was so nostalgic for me to just read all of these words that I already like have in my heart from the movie. And then I also really liked the additions to the story that were made. So for example, Jordan has her kind of magic. I love that she was the main character because she has always been my favorite character of the whole movie and also story in general. And yeah, it just worked for me, I think, because I am a Gatsby fan. So if you feel the same way, I think this book will work for you too. But if you think The Great Gatsby is kind of boring, you don't care about the 20s and stuff like that, then I don't think this book will be for you, because it is a Gatsby retelling. So yeah, for me it worked out perfectly. Then the next book I finished was A Curse of Roses by Diana Pinguicha, something like that. My Portuguese is not great, as you can hear. I really liked this book. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. This follows a princess, or the soon-to-be queen of Portugal, in the Middle Ages. This has a lot of fantasy elements, but that kind of historical setting. And what I really liked about this is that it is a story about queerness, and especially in these more historical settings, I think that is always interesting to reflect. So we basically follow this princess. Her name is Isabel, and she is cursed because everything that she touches, and that is food, every food she touches will turn into flowers. And that means that she basically can't eat like a normal human being, because, you know, as soon as it touches her body, the food turns into flowers. But she's trying to keep that a secret because the Catholic Church is still very, very strong and has a lot of power in her world. So she's afraid that if anyone finds out about her curse, that her fiance, the king, will have to get rid of her because she's tainted, he can't marry her. And at the same time, while she's trying to get rid of her curse, she actually meets this I think it's called an enchanted Moora, and that is basically a woman who was also cursed, and so now she is kind of living in a stone, basically. She's kind of forced into that and she can't really get out. It's like a prison. And so she goes to this enchanted Moora to find out whether she can help her get rid of the curse. And so these two kind of get together to help each other. And while they do that, maybe figure out some romantic feelings as well. So what I loved about this book is that it is a female-female relationship that is on the foreground. I also really just loved the characters. I think that the whole discussion with religion and what Catholic religion is and isn't and stuff like that was very, very interesting. I think this book can be quite triggering because there is a lot of homophobia and also internalized homophobia within the main character. So if you don't like to hear these discussions with people really struggling to accept their kind of sexuality because of especially religious beliefs, then I don't think this is the book for you. But I thought it was dealt with in quite a realistic way. There's definitely a struggle there, and you can understand why it is hard for the main character to kind of get rid of all of these like deeply ingrained beliefs that she has been taught from a very, very young age. So yeah, I really loved it. I think this is definitely an underrated book, and I really like listening listening to the audiobook as well, because there are some Portuguese terms in there that, you know, my head wouldn't be able to pronounce, and so it was nice to listen to that on audio. So yeah, I would highly recommend this book. Then I finished The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris, and this was also a very fun read. I decided to give it 4 stars in the end. Now, in this book, we follow a girl called Nella. She has been working for around, I think, 2 years for this publishing company, and she's always been the only black girl there. But on this day, when we start following her story, there's actually a new black girl that is supposed to work alongside her. And at first Nella is like super excited about that, and she's really glad to have someone to share all of these experiences with, and to kind of be able to gossip a little bit about all of the microaggressions that Nella has suffered through and will probably suffer through in her job and stuff like that. But then the mood kind of shifts, and it gets a little bit creepier, and some things aren't quite right, until one day a note appears on Nella's desk, and she doesn't know who put it there, but the note basically tells her to get out. So this is compared to the movie Get Out, and I do see where the comparison comes from. I would still suggest to not believe it completely, because I think this book has a different focus, and while I did like the mystery behind the note and what's really going on and stuff like that, I think this is really more about the complexities of relationships, especially between women of color, but also like all the other relationships that are in there. And yeah, I thought it was a very, very fun read. I definitely enjoyed the beginning and the ending the most. I thought that the atmosphere was so good in these parts. I think the middle part dragged a little bit. And the biggest issue I had with this book was that in the first part, you only follow Nella, and I loved it. But then you start having other perspectives in it as well, and that was just too confusing. And then at the beginning, I think of part 4, you have one chapter from one perspective that just spoils too much. And yeah, if I had edited this book, I would have been like, only tell Nella's point of view, because that's enough. That will be enough for the mystery. But yeah, in the end, I really enjoyed it, and I would gladly pick up everything that this author puts out next. Then the next book I finished was Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Imide. And this was a book I was so excited about, because I've been following the author on Twitter for a while, and I always really liked her tweets. And yeah, I've been just so excited for this book. Now, this is a YA book, and it is also a dark academia. So it follows 2 kids at this private school called Niveus. And one of those kids is Devon, and he's kind of the music guy. He's really into playing the piano and creating his own songs. He doesn't really interact a lot with the other students. He tries to keep for himself and just get through the school year. And he is also on a scholarship, so a lot of the other students are from richer families, and he's from a very poor background. And then we also follow Chiamaka, and she is kind of the popular girl of the school. It's pretty sure that she will be like, it's not homecoming queen, but something like it. I always get confused with all of the like American school terms. But yeah, she's really popular, and she's also the head girl. That's announced at the beginning of the school year when we start following the story. And basically, they're in their last year of school, and they're in the senior year, and they're the only 2 black kids in the whole school. And suddenly there is this anonymous texter called Aces who starts putting out like secrets and information on these 2 kids. And we basically follow them trying to figure out who Aces is, what they want, and how they can stop them. So I loved it. 5 stars. It was such a good book. It had everything. Like, I was hooked from the first page, and I really haven't read a book that I just couldn't put down in a long while. So this was such a breeze for me, because I really had such a hard time putting it away. As soon as I started reading, I could not stop because it was so good. And I also enjoyed the ending. I feel like the ending was a little bit of the weakest part for me, but yeah, I just loved it. It had such a good atmosphere as well. It was like really thrilling, and you just wanted to know what the hell is going on. So then I finished the only physical book that I managed to finish in June, and that is The Champagne Queen by Petra Durst-Benning. This is a historical fiction following a character called Isabelle when she moves to France to live there and start producing champagne. And you basically follow her through what happens. And as you can tell from my enthusiastic description, I did not like this book. I gave it 2.5 stars. It's just not for me. This is a series. This is the second book in the series, and my best friend got it for me to read for Christmas, and this was the last one I had to read. So I am very glad this is over. And yeah, I don't really want to talk about this anymore. I talked about it in the vlog part. It's just not my thing. It's not my genre. I didn't like the main character. There were a couple of things that I thought were quite offensive, and also like not very, sensitive, which sounds wrong. I have a cat hair in my face. Oh my god. But yeah, just some things weren't handled that great. There were a lot of stereotypes that I didn't appreciate. So yeah, no. And then on the same day, I also finished Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, you all know this. This is such a hyped book. I think a lot of people were very excited for the new Taylor Jenkins Reid book. I must say I have only read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo so far, so this was only my second book by her. I know that some people were quite disappointed with this one. I did enjoy it, but I did not expect it to be as good as The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, because I don't think there is a lot of books that are that good. So yeah, I went into this not expecting too much. We are following a family that already popped up in the Evelyn Hugo book once, because Evelyn Hugo is shortly married to a man called Mick Riva. I think they're only married for like 24 hours or something like that. And Mick Riva is a very famous musician, and in Malibu Rising we're following his family. So we basically follow his children. He has 4 children that live together. We have Nina, who's the eldest daughter. Then we have Jay, who is the eldest son. Then we have Had, who is the kind of smaller brother to Jay, but they're almost the same age. And then we have Kit, who is the smallest daughter. And these 4 have this kind of tradition that they throw one big party every summer in Malibu where they live. And basically there's not like invitations, like kind of everybody who knows about the party is automatically invited to the party. And in this year, I think it's like 83 or something like that. It is in the 80s, the beginning of the 80s. It just completely escalates, and at the end we know that the house is completely burnt down. And so we have this kind of weird narrative where we're following the kind of lead up to the party, then the party, and at the same time in this first part, which is the lead up to the party, we also have a lot of flashbacks to the family history. So in this first part, we learn all about the family of Mick Riva and how he met his first wife, how his children were born, and how he then went away, because we know he eventually married Evelyn Hugo for a while there, so he must have gone away. That's pretty obvious. And yeah, we just follow these characters through their childhood, and then we also see kind of where they're at. I think at the point of the story, Nina is like in her early 20s or mid 20s, something like that. So they're not that old. And yeah, this is basically a story that focuses a lot on like famous people. And I know that, you know, not everyone's interested in that, because Mick Weaver, as I said, is a famous singer. His daughter is a famous model, and his eldest son is a famous surfer, and his younger son is a famous photographer. So they're all kind of famous, and they also have a lot of money for reasons. But as we listen to the whole history of the family, we know that that hasn't always been the case. And it's also an exploration of, you know, the circumstances you grew up in and how that shapes you, and how sometimes it's very hard to overcome what you've learned when you were a child. So I feel like this is Nina's book mostly. So we follow all these other characters as well, but it really is all about Nina, I would say, and I enjoyed that. I really like Nina's story. I think that she's a fascinating character. I think that the parallels that are drawn between her and her mother are very interesting, and I just really liked seeing her development. She has like a super big personal development in this book, and that's what I enjoyed about it. Still, I think that there were a couple of things that I would have done differently. Especially, I would have cut out some of the party scenes because they were really pointless. And so in the end, I gave it 4 stars, and I think listening to it on audio was quite enjoyable. And that was all the books that I have finished in June. I almost finished The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I only had about 100 pages left of this book when the month was over, so that was kind of unfortunate. But I can tell you that this book was so good that there was basically no way that it wouldn't be 5 stars. So you'll hear more about my final thoughts next month, but yeah, I almost finished that in June as well. So that's all the books that I have finished in June. Let me know what was your favorite book of June. I would love to hear about that, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!